Hi class. This week's video for our lab is going to be in regards to just catching up on anything that I may have missed because of things that were going on this semester that I know I did miss one or two labs. So I want to catch up with those numbers, and then the next lab will be on cabinetry and countertops, and we will continue to move forward and get our final estimate for the end of the semester coming up. So when it comes to roofing and siding, one of the biggest things that you need to remember is when you're doing blueprint reading and you have a set of blueprints like this and you have to do a takeoff of how much material do you need to order for the roof and how much material do you need to order for the siding. Now, the roof in this house is pretty simple. We have a nice gable roof. We're seeing the front and the back side of that gable roof. And then we have these two front gables going into that main roof. And then we'll focus on siding as well too. Well, siding, we do have this large garage door. That obviously siding is not going through the garage door. So we will deduct a few things. But up here on the roof, we don't have a lot to deduct except for these gables. This is two-dimensional, so if you were to take this plan to scale, you could get right to left my ridge, right? So you could get the width, because what we need to do is we need to figure out square feet. Let's see if I can get my pen here. So, bad writing. Square feet. And once we get our square foot of the total area, let me just finish writing this, square feet. Once we get our square foot of the total roofing area, and this works for the siding as well too, then we are actually going to divide by 100, because the way that we order and the way that we quote are by the square count. So this square foot becomes per square. There's 100 square feet in 1 square. So when I go to give the project manager the square count for the roofing, I first must figure out my square foot. I divide by 100, I round up, and then I get a square count of 7 squares for the roofing to be able to be ordered and or to quote. And we do the same exact thing for our siding. With siding, again, when we have these larger openings, we will deduct that from the square foot originally before we convert over to the square. So once we've gotten our square count, we would then multiply by a number based on labor and material. And for our roofing number, it's actually $450 per square. Siding, I've seen it go all the way up to $1,000, over $1,000 recently in the past year. That may be a higher end siding product and contractor, subcontractor. So depending on their level of expertise, they might be a little bit of a higher labor rate than others. So you could see a square count multiplier of maybe $650 all the way up to $1,000 per square when it comes to siding. Roofing, $450 per square is pretty reasonable for any contractor out there right now. Might be even a little bit high. I always like to be a little bit higher on my multiplier number when I'm doing estimate than to be too short on the number. Okay, so back to looking at blueprint. Let's see, exit drawing. When we look at our drawings in two-dimensional and we want to get our square foot count for the roofing, I'm not going to go through every single elevation at this point. It's too far into the semester, but I want you to be able to understand how to do it. So again, I take the width of the ridge. I always think about the ridge border, that top of our roof, right? The ridge. And then I have to actually go to the side elevation, because this dimension on my slope, right, or the pitch, the slope of the roof, is much different than the dimension if I was to try to dimension the front or rear elevation. Because again, this is two-dimensional, okay? So when we look over at our roofing, For the front elevation total, I have 1,020 square feet. For the rear, I have 1,260 square feet. And then for the right and left elevation, they're the same, 452 square feet. You are going to fill this sheet in, just so I know you watched the video, and you could fill in the proper numbers on here without having to do the calculations yourself. So I'm giving you this lab, but trying to tell you how to go about doing it. So why is the front and the rear different? Because we have these gables built into the front of the square foot. Look at the rear is just nice and clean roof, right? We will be having solar panels on this at some point, but, well, it did, excuse me, this project had solar panels. We're not going to include those on our quote. But anyways, there's the gable roofs that cut into the square foot count. So then you just add up the sides. Oh, let me jump over to the side elevation real quick. And what we did for the side elevation is we took the ridge width, even though you know some of this is siding, it's good to have waste because with roof, their shingles are just going to come right over, and there's going to be a lot of waste when it comes to this roof being installed. And then we have this smaller roof right here, times 2. It's the same thing on either side. So that's why those numbers are the same, the 452 square feet and right and left. So we add those up and we get 3,184 square feet. We divide that by 100 right here, divide by 100, and then round up. So we got 32 square. Here's your calculation, $450 per square times the 32, and you get $14,400 for your roofing. The $14,400 is what is going to go into your Excel sheet. All right, for the siding, same thing. What we did was we went through the vinyl siding and the cedar siding, because the cedar vinyl siding is $950 per square, and the regular horizontal vinyl siding is $700 per square. So we had to make sure that we separated those so we could get a proper quote, because again, it is a little bit different. So we came up with 358 square feet for the vinyl siding on the front. We came up with 344 square feet for the cedar siding. For the rear elevation, the front also, we deducted the garage width, which is 16 feet wide by 9 foot tall. On the rear elevation, it's 470 square feet. And on the left and right, as you can see, they're exactly the same. And let me go back over to our plan. So what we do is you put an imaginary line at our top of wall, right? And then we know we have 9 feet plus the floor system on the bottom here. So you really want to call that height 10 feet because siding goes down and it wraps around our floor joist system. So it's actually the width of this wall times 10 feet. And then you see here on the gable ends, all you're doing is creating a triangle, right? And you're measuring from the top to the top of wall or top of floor. And then you're measuring from the middle point over to the right side. And then just multiply times 2. So that's how we're getting, and we did not deduct these windows or these other doors. The only thing we deducted from our siding count was the garage. This for a minute. And so back into the siding, once you add these all up, again, the left and the right, they're both the same at 1,026 square feet. We end up with 2,880 square feet. Same as the roofing, we divide by 100 and we get 28.8, round up, and we have 29 squares of the vinyl siding. Don't forget that 344, that needs to go down into your cedar siding because it's a different cost. And so obviously the 344 divided by 100, we're going to round that up to 4 squares. All right, and then again, you do your calculation, 4 squares times 950 over here is $3,800. And then our 29 squares times 700 is $20,300. So you're going to add those two up together. Oh, excuse me, cultured stone. We do not have any cultured stone on this project, so please ignore that right there. This is your bottom line number that we want to put on our Excel sheet. I also want to make sure that you put your gutters in on this lab, put the $3,000 into your Excel sheet. How I got this number is by going around the house and understanding where the gutters and downspouts would be. And it's a linear footage that you come up with, and you multiply it by a certain number based on materials and labor. And then you know how the gable vents in this house, I gotta exit drawing again. On the front, those pretty gable vents that we have up here, what we did was we just allowed for an allowance of $500 each. So that's a gable vent detail that we're going to put a $1,000 allowance on. All right, so I'm going to jump over to your Excel sheet, and I'm going to well, let me jump down here, and then I'll on the second video, I'm going to revisit the Excel sheet to give you some more information here. So for your siding package is the 2410. For the gable vent detail, we have $1,000. For the gutter downspouts, you have $3,000. For the roofing materials and labor, you have $14,400. And you see how these are all allowances here, okay? And then for the insulation, labor, and materials, I would like you to use an $18,000 estimate, and that is based on past history and past houses similar to this size and similar to the insulation package that we need to put in per code. All right, I'm going to jump back on another video so I can give you some more information related to this Excel sheet so you all have the proper numbers to be able to finish up this class with. Okay, thank you.